In Abomination, the Heir of Frankenstein, you play scientists who have been visited by Frankenstein's monster, and he is forcing you to create a companion for him. On your turn, you'll send your scientists and assistant meeples out to the city to various locations collecting muscles, organs, bones, and blood to be used in your creation of body parts. Digging up bodies from the cemetery will give you bones and decomposed body parts, while going to the hospital or the morgue will give you slightly more preserved parts. Or you could go into the back alleys and murder people. That'll give you fresh specimens to work with. Each location has a deck of cards that show you the components you collect and what level of decay they're in. Bringing them back to your lab, you'll place those components into the areas marking their level of decay. Each round, these parts will decompose, moving them down one step. But never fear, you can buy blocks of ice to halt that decay temporarily. Players will then spend sets of these components to create body parts to form their monster. Creating body parts from fresh components will earn you more victory points. Also, each part requires a certain level of knowledge to create them, so you'll have to visit the academy periodically to increase your know-how so you can get your monster moving. Now it's time to finish off these body parts. Each player will need to buy Leyden jars and charge them with electricity. You use those Leyden jars to add dice to your pool when trying to activate the body parts. Each eyeball symbol will activate a part, but each lightning bolt will damage a part. If you ever have 2 or more damage on a part, it's destroyed and you'll have to build it all over again. Once someone has completed their entire monster and activates all of its parts, the game will end and everyone will score points. But wait, there's more! Each player also has to manage, in addition to their expertise, their humanity and their reputation. Murdering people in back alleys and rustling up dead bodies can cause you to lose some of your humanity, in turn losing a ton of victory points and reputation. Also, doing these wild experiments will cause your colleagues to look at you cross-eyed, and your reputation will go down. But the inverse, you can give lectures and volunteer at the hospital to increase your reputation, attracting new assistants, giving you additional actions. And finally, each round will start by drawing an event card. Sometimes this event will have an encounter with Frankenstein's monster. When a player activates a designated location, the card will be played on them, and they have to answer for their work. You read a passage from the storybook and deal with the consequences. This continues until either the round tracker ticks to the end or someone completes their monster, and you'll score points for activated body parts, your position on the humanity, reputation, and expertise tracks, and any bonus victory point objectives you achieved. The player with the most points is the greatest and most renowned mad scientist of all time. And likely the one who wasn't murdered by Frankenstein's monster. Abomination, the Heir of Frankenstein. Man, was I excited about this game. It's horror, it's Frankenstein, it's a Euro game, right up my alley. I got this game, read the rule book, and I was actually like a little disappointed at first. You know, I look at the board and like half the action spaces do the same thing. The cemetery, the hospital, the morgue, the dark alley, the docks, they're all about just collecting body parts, and it's only a very small variation of the same thing. But when I played the game, boy, was I wrong. I was wrong to be disappointed. Not only that, it actually exceeded my expectations for what I thought I was going to get. There's a lot of meat to this game. I mean, my overview is not even close to the amount of stuff that's in this game. And man, I got to tell you, I love it. Starting off, it's a Euro game, right? So there's resource management in the game, and the resource management is done in a very, very cool way. Because of course, you're going around, you're collecting the different body parts, and depending on the action space you go to, you get body parts in varying levels of decay. And as the game progresses, each round, they're gonna decay more. The fresher the body parts, the more victory points you get. And man, is that fun to do, because there's all kinds of ways you could go about this. Of course, if you're playing a game where you want to be as efficient as possible, you want to get all the right resources and spend them as quickly as possible to get the freshest body parts made, you're going to be scoring maximum victory points. It's a really neat thing you can do. But of course, there's other avenues that you can go where you don't really care about getting maximum victory points. You just want to do it quickly. You want to be more reserved about the frivolous action spaces that you take and sort of managing your time better, sort of building up resources and spending them all at once so that you have less chance of damaging parts and things like that. It's a really neat concept. There's a lot of different ways to go, and it's kind of a tight resource management game too, because every time I feel like I have an abundance of this resource, but I can't seem to get this resource over here, every game it's the same. And like I'm fighting to get those resources, so it makes it very hard to play a tight game and maximize those victory points. So it's very fun to try to manage all of that stuff. And even there's a strategy that you can take where you build only from animal parts. You know, if nobody's really going for the animal parts, everybody's going for the human parts. You could take that avenue of animal parts, you get negative victory points. But again, you're sort of optimizing your actions and getting more done. You can focus on your expertise, you can focus on your humanity, you can focus on your reputation. It's almost like in the narrative, you're saying, you know, Frankenstein's forcing me to do this. But I'm saying screw him, because I'm not going to sacrifice my reputation for this guy, so I'm going to give him a piece of crap monster. You know, I'll score less victory points, but I could potentially win by being a very reputable doctor, very humane doctor, and having a lot of expertise. It's a kind of a cool way to go about it. You can go in different directions with this, and I like that, and I appreciate that it is possible in the game to do those things. Now also, because it's a Euro game, there's something I have to bring up, and that is the randomness of this game. A lot of people ask me, you know, is the randomness punishing? Well, the answer is it can be, but you can also mitigate that randomness a lot. If you're managing your expertise, you could get better dice to replace the crappy dice with, so that's a bit of mitigation. You go to the academy, there are cards there, and all of the cards have dice mitigation, rerolls, and that sort of stuff. So there are definitely ways around the chance of getting crappy luck in this game. Also, with damaging your body parts, it's kind of difficult to destroy a body part. You have to be playing very recklessly to destroy body parts. You can repair body parts. So if you go into a dice roll and you hadn't repaired damage, you could potentially destroy things. But there's ways to get around all of that randomness. So you can play conservative, or you can play freewheeling. It's your choice. And I like that they give you the option in this game. Now, I will say that some of the event cards in the game could cause you some problems with randomness. But the game goes on long enough that I feel like you can pivot off of those things, and you can recover from some of those random issues. Same thing with the take that cards. You go to the church and you get take that cards, which I'm not a huge fan of take that cards. I don't like using them in games, but hey, this one has it, so it's in the spirit of the game. I'll use them. But you can get around them because of the length and the amount of actions you get to take. You can pivot around a lot of those problems. Now, I mentioned those event cards, and that's something that I really want to bring up, is the narrative elements to this game. Not many Euro games actually have this in it, and boy, do I appreciate this. They really paid close attention to theme in this game. They have all of those story beats. You know, the events happen. If you go to a location, the monster might be there, or somebody might be there to have an encounter with. You read a story passage, so some choices you could potentially have to make that will be beneficial to you or could potentially hurt you. I really like that because it really lends to the theme well. And the theme is great in this game because not only do they provide you with those story beats in the storybook, but all the mechanisms of the game are very thematic too, like the ice blocks and the Leyden jars and like the humanity that you take when you murder people, going to the academy and doing lectures to increase your reputation and taking classes and things and to increase your expertise. All of it makes so much sense. The mechanisms and the story beats from the book all mesh together very well to make this a really great experience of a game. Euro games usually don't have that. You know, normally I don't complain about that kind of thing in a Euro game, but in this one, it provides so much theme to you that it's just a great experience every time. Now, something else I did want to bring up is the length of the game. A lot of people were talking about length. You look at a lot of reviewers, they're talking about length. Yes, this is a long game, that's for sure. I mean, I've never played a game that was under 2.5 hours yet. I think it probably could get under 2.5, but that's where it's sitting right now. For me, I'm okay with that. I don't mind a long game because I feel like I can really sink my teeth into the game. I can really explore strategies. I can pivot from strategies. I can recover from problems. And I feel like I really get a full experience out of a long game. And this one it provides that. But my biggest problem with it is this game really doesn't have an evolution of gameplay throughout. Let me give you an example of Through the Ages. When you play that game, it's like 3 to 4 hours long, And as you play the game, things are changing. Strategies are evolving. New characters are coming in. You have new abilities and things are changing out all the time. So you feel like there's an evolution to the gameplay. This one is really the same thing from beginning to end. You know, you're going out, you're collecting this, you're building body parts, you're trying to animate them and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, this game is the same game for a long period of time. So if that bothers you, this might not be for you. I particularly like it. I don't have a problem with it, but it could be a problem for some people. And now the last thing I guess I want to mention is, yeah, this is a very gruesome game. I mean, wow. I mean, when you're building the monster, you got body parts without skin on them and bug-eyed, ugly creatures. And boy, the corpses at the morgue and in the cemetery, they're pretty gruesome. There's one of them that has like a woman lying on a slab with her jaw ripped off. This is a gruesome game. This is a horror game. I can handle that type of thing because I love horror movies, but this ain't for everybody. For those who do appreciate that kind of stuff, this is for them. This is great. This is great horror, and they don't pull any punches whatsoever for a horror fan. So all in all, in summary, I really like this game. This is a really well done game. Thematically, it's fantastic. Mechanisms are fun. Strategies are cool to explore. It's deep. I can really sink my teeth into it. I love it. Now, it is random. There is some length problems there, so if those things bother you, you might want to steer clear of this one. But all in all, I think it's a really good one. If you're into the horror theme, this is one to check out. Abomination, the Heir of Frankenstein. The best Frankenstein game I've ever played in my life. Thanks so much, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, please do us a giant favor by subscribing to the channel and clicking that wacky bell icon. If you're into board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, we have a bunch of audio podcasts you might enjoy. You can find those at thesecretcabal.com or on iTunes and Stitcher.